screen starts glowing and the film starts rolling. You wanna be knowing what you might be in for. So give the show a listen and find out what you're missing. Put yourself in position for the easy good score.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Goods, a film podcast. We're in the thick of our musical month. What is the official name, Dan?
I think it's Jellicle month for Jellicle podcasts, Brian. No, just kidding. Musical Decades Month, I think, is the official title.
Yes, and it's a big one. I mean, what is the episode number? 244. It may not be the most significant number, but it feels hefty. It feels poignant to me because the movies that I've brought to bear here this week are two musicals from Andrew Lloyd Webber, The Phantom of the Opera, and Cats. So, Dan, your past exposure to Andrew Lloyd Webber writ large, but in particular these two shows, what is it?
Fairly little, to be honest. The Phantom of the Opera. So that is our pick from the 2000s because it came out in 2004. We were in high school in 2004 and we were in band. We weren't in theater. I mean, I don't know. Did you do any theater stuff, Brian?
Not really. I have a lot of stuff to unpack with both of these shows.
Okay.
Phantom especially, but both of them.
So we were band geeks, you and me, Brian, in high school together. And 2004, I was a sophomore. So maybe you weren't quite yet in high school. I can't remember the exact timing, but I was peripherally aware of this movie, but I didn't actually see it. But I definitely knew several of the songs and the gist of the story. Cats, I was really only aware of in like the just broader general cultural sense. And to be honest, I had a lot of misconceptions about, I don't know if that's true. I had a vision in my head of what Cats was, and it was both right and wrong, and we can talk about that. But I had never seen it. And when this movie came out just before COVID, it was sometime in 2019, it was already a boondoggle, and then it felt like it caused the end of the world. It's like right after COVID happened. So we can maybe talk about whether this, in fact, is like the true before and after, not like the March whatever 2020 when the world shut down, but Cats in 2019, Brian. So that's our 2010s selection of Musical Decades Month. So we will, at the conclusion of this episode, have hit 8 out of 10 of the decades of the talkie, with only the 1980s and the 1990s remaining.
Yes, I'm glad that you clarified that. So these are our 2000s and 2010s selections, even though Cats the Musical debuted on stage in 1981 and Phantom of the Opera debuted in 1986. So both of them shows from the 80s, but movies on our checklist, 2000s and 2010s.
I think that's drawing attention to something that perhaps we could learn from this exercise, which is that nearly all of the musicals that we've talked about have roots that go beyond just the release of the film. They have long, interesting histories. The musicals that make it to screen often have convoluted and long, laborious histories before they actually get to screen.
True. Yeah, they're almost always based on something. And what you had one, was it Color Purple? It was like a book and then a movie and then a musical and then a movie of the musical.
Yeah, and then like each time the thing that got made pulled what it chose from anything that had been made before it. So it wasn't like it was like a weird a la carte adaptational situation. And I'll be curious to learn more about how faithful these are to their stage adaptations as we go through this too, Brian. I'm not
Yes,
sure if you know.
I know a bit. I'm going to be jumping around. I just have a lot in my head for both of these. I guess quickly I'll address what you said about cats and COVID, which one of my very first memories of early COVID times, like, the first week when everything shut down, was I was catching up on the most recent episodes at that point of Teddy and Matt's podcast, Buzzed on Movies, and they had one about cats, 2019. And at that point, I hadn't seen the movie, I hadn't seen the trailer, and so I was like, what is it? What is this? And just hearing them describe it, the pictures in my head, I was like, well, I know eventually I gotta watch this movie. But now let's dive back into the past a little further. I want to talk about my association, my connection to these Andrew Lloyd Webber shows. So when I was very young, like 5, I don't know, as far back as I can remember, maybe 6, I had a handful of cassette tapes that I would listen to like over and over. And I think they all left a pretty profound influence on the person I ended up becoming. But the tapes that I can really remember are I had like 2 box sets from Disney. One was like deep cuts from a bunch of different stuff in the Disney catalog for like the first, 60 years of the studio or something. So including like the Skeleton Dance and the Ugly Bug Ball with Burl Ives and stuff. So like not the brand new stuff. Whale of a Tale from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. That kind of stuff. Another from Disney was this collection of American folk songs. And I had the soundtrack of Fiddler on the Roof, and I had the soundtrack of Phantom of the Opera. My like bullet point thesis for Phantom of the Opera, my connection to it, is that this like shaped my idea of what was romantic. And I'll say now with hindsight, Phantom of the Opera, the character, the man, not the best romantic role model.
Interesting. I feel like you wrote about this at one point, Brian. Am I right about that?
That's right. When Dan was doing his top 100 everything blog series in 2014, I did one that was like 10 entries. It was like 10 top 10s of various topics that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't want to make 100 blog posts. I wanted to make 10. And there was one that I was talking in that category, books. It was about books that I read. And so this one, Phantom of the Opera, originally was based on a 1910 novel by Gaston Leroux. I don't think I've technically read that novel, but I had like a chapter book adaptation that I read when I was a kid. I watched the Wishbone episode, and I just listened to this cassette tape like constantly. And then when I was in first grade, actually, I think I was in first grade. I'm sure I could look up exactly when this was. I was young. We went and saw it at the Kennedy Center. And what I remember about that was I knew that the chandelier was going to drop because that's part of the story. And they really had a chandelier there in the theater. So basically, the whole first act, I had my face hidden. I knew the chandelier was going to drop. And like, how are you going to do that and not kill people? I mean, we were up kind of in the nosebleeds. Like, we were up in the balcony. So I kind of figured we were probably okay. But I was really scared of what was going to happen when that chandelier dropped. And then when it does drop, it like swings onto the stage. It just kind of lands on the stage. It doesn't actually squash anybody. We're gonna talk more about the chandelier, but then fast forward a few years to when I was in high school. Freshman year of high school, I won an award in the National Scholastic Writing Competition. And I went to New York to receive the award. And my dad went up there with me to New York City. And my request when I went was I want to see Phantom of the Opera on Broadway. And so we went and we did that. And so then that was in like, that might have been 2004. Maybe it was 2005 at that point.
Okay, so right around when the movie came out.
Yes, but I had not seen this movie yet. This week was my first time seeing this movie.
Oh, really? So you hadn't seen the movie at all? Interesting.
Never seen it at all.
Okay.
It actually scrambles some things around.
Yeah.
I think the main reason that things are scrambled around is because they didn't want to have an act break.
Yes, there was a moment where I could tell this is the act break song. I assume it's the one where he sees, well, we'll get to it, where it's supposed to be the moment that the Phantom breaks bad and he witnesses something and gets angry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He goes extra bad in the stage show at that point. So we'll talk about it. We have talked about many musicals in our history of doing the podcast, even beyond just this month. And we've talked about that some of the musical movies, particularly in like the 60s, would actually have some kind of intermission in the middle. Like they'd be long blockbuster roadshow presentations, and there'd actually be some kind of pause.
Mm-hmm.
That's less the style now. So I imagine that's why they shuffled things. Also, I don't know, maybe they thought the chandelier should really come at the end because it comes at the beginning. You're like, it's the first thing you're introduced to. You see that the relics from the opera house are being auctioned off, and then the chandelier rises into the rafters as you're flashing back.
So a few thoughts, a few reactions here, Brian. So one is, you kind of alluded to this movie made an impression on you in multiple ways, and one of which was kind of like shaping your vision of romance, perhaps in a negative way. I think that's a powerful thought with regards to this film, because I think in some ways it's like interrogating, like it's a little unresolved about it. It's kind of like Beauty and the Beast. There's actually a lot of Beauty and the Beast in this telling of Phantom of the Opera.
Also Cyrano de Bergerac and Hunchback of Notre Dame. So I don't know what it is with specifically French stories of ugly dudes who are, locked away in crypts and castles, pining for the beautiful maiden.
Right. And like sort of getting to her heart. Maybe it's like it was just a bunch of losers writing these stories and they're like imagining themselves in these situations or something. I don't know. It is also like a surface level investigation of romance or depiction of romance. And maybe that's not quite right, but it's like very, in general, it's very like spectacle showy, not a deep depiction of romance, even though it kind of, I don't know, I found a lot of contradictions in these movies, like not just contradictions in the story, but like in the perspectives and the philosophies in making them. And I think Andrew Lloyd Webber, so as you heard, I'm not an expert on him, but because I've never actually seen one of his musicals staged live. I've read about him some this past week, and I've been familiar with him culturally and like just learning about musicals and such, and culture in the 20th century and the way the winds are shifting. And the vision of what he brings to like making a musical is just multifaceted and in some ways self-contradictory. And I felt that in the stories too, to some extent. And maybe I can elaborate a little bit on why that is now, or did you want to talk us in a little bit more?
No, I think this is going to be a little bit spitbally, a little bit freeform, a little jazz. So what are your preemptory thoughts on Andrew Lloyd Webber?
So another thing you said is that you had this moment as a kid where you had the chandelier and you're like, I know the chandelier is going to fall. That's something that happens in the story. And so you even sent me an article about this. And this is something that I've heard, Brian, is that Andrew Lloyd Webber, although he had like kind of a distinct creative voice, he in many ways was just as influential in like behind the scenes production and particularly like globalizing a show. So, shows had gone on the road before, but Andrew Lloyd Webber. I think Cats was like the one that like really kicked this off, but Phantom of the Opera was a big success, and some others he's done too. It wasn't just like a show would go on tour, but it was like every place that they went, they would like replicate the same experience with the same high level of spectacle, almost like a turnkey, like a franchise, like
Yeah, like
McDonald's, yeah. And because if you're going to get a burger in Tucson, Arizona, and you get a burger in New York City, that they're going to be the same burger, and it's the same thing of like going to see Phantom of the Opera, different parts of the world, different parts of the country. The theater might be shaped a little different, the talent might be different, the actual director and whoever is like putting on the show might be different, but you're going to get basically the same experience. In some ways, it has been liberating because now culture isn't just in West End and Broadway and that's it. Like that those are the places you have to be to see the big time musicals. Now you can go to Tucson, Arizona, and you can see Cats whenever it's there if they have a theater that fits it or whatever. But on the other hand, it's also like diminishing of the artistic experience because it kind of reduces it to a product to be consumed. So it's saying like a musical isn't necessarily a individual piece of expression, but it's like a commodity. You go and you pay your $75 theater tickets and you go and sit and you're going to see the big chandelier fall because that's part of the experience of going to see this. And in some ways, it's actually making musicals more like movies, because you go to a movie theater, you're going to watch the same movie. If you go buy a ticket for Mission Impossible 7 at this theater or the theater across the country or even a theater in France, it might be dubbed in French or something, but it's still going to be the same movie. And so in some ways, the Andrew Lloyd Webber, the term that the article you sent me called it a mega musical. It's almost turning that into more of a cinematic experience than what was kind of, I don't know, you think of like the classic. Even I've been thinking a lot about the movie Blue Moon. You haven't seen that, right? The one that stars Ethan Hawke?
No, I don't think so.
It just came out this year. He's nominated for Best Actor for it. It's on the debut night of Oklahoma. And he spends a lot of time like talking about what is a musical, what should a musical be, how should it be made? And like his vision of it is it's like a pouring out of the soul of the people who are putting it together. And in some senses, you lose that when you do what Andrew Lloyd Webber is doing.
That's really interesting. The idea that, when you see a stage production, you think at least that it's a one-off. It's a personal experience that you're there in the moment and you're taking it in, and it's going to be a little different than when they do it for a different audience tomorrow night, because it's, the people, the actors, the live actors are there really doing it. It's not a recording.
Right. And certainly, like, the element of seeing something live, something put on by actual people, even if they have like figured it out down to the every single little installation you need to get the exact effect of the Phantom of the Opera, there still is a live human on stage doing the line readings and acting out the parts. So there is an element of like active creation that is not there when you're just projecting a film onto a screen, although that has its own magic to it in a slightly different way. I feel like it introduces some strange tensions in what is the experience of going to see a musical, going to see a stage show.
Mm-hmm. One thing I want to say about my experience early on with Cats, which was much more limited than my experience with Phantom of the Opera. In 1998, they made what's called a pro shot, which is they did like a professional recording of a stage production of it.
Mm-hmm.
And this was on PBS all the time, presumably in 1998 and shortly thereafter. I've mentioned on the pod before that growing up, we didn't have cable until the Jimmy Neutron days. That earlier than that, I watched a lot of PBS Kids and just anything that happened to be on PBS. And so I remember broadcasts of Cats that they would break up with pledge drive beat. Like, if you're liking what you're hearing, send us $25 and we'll give you a Cats CD or something like that, along with a PBS tote bag. So I do remember when I was about 8, sitting down and watching this on TV and thinking, what the hell is going on?
You and me both, brother.
It's like they're not even saying words. It's like half of everything is nonsense.
I mean, literally, like
Yeah.
half the words are made up words. Or like, okay, well, we don't need to dive into it, but also half the movie is introducing new weird cats that have weird names and weird powers. Like, how could we be halfway into the movie and we're still meeting new cats that say new weird words? There can't be any more new weird cat words. We hit the limit.
That was my experience. It made no sense to me, and I thought maybe when I'm a grown up, I'll watch this again, and it'll make sense.
That's what maturing is understanding what cats is. That's when you become a grown up.
I've got more to say on that subject.
It's like the birds and the bees.
Yes, yes, I've got more to say on that subject.
The jellicles and McCavities.
I watched it this time on a Plex server, and when you click on the movie, there's like a little blurb. I mean, I suppose most streaming apps you watch something on, it'll have a little blurb describing the movie. And the summary on Plex for Cats 2019. Actually, you know what? I watched Cats 2019 and then I watched the 1998 Pro Shot again. So I watched both this week. And under the 1998 version, the blurb said, scare quotes, Jellicle cats join for a Jellicle ball where they rejoice with their leader, Old Deuteronomy. One cat will be chosen to go to the Heaviside layer and be reborn. The cats introduce themselves. That's the plot summary.
Accurate plot summary.
That's the plot of the film. Podcast done.
That's pretty funny.
But yeah, let's talk a little bit about Andrew Lloyd Webber and what he's done, what he has wrought. So I read a bit more about his biography than I knew before. I guess he started composing as a teenager and hooked up pretty early on with Tim Rice. We know Tim Rice worked with like Elton John on Lion King, worked on Aladdin after Ashman. But I guess they were already working together, Webber and Rice, in the late 60s. And the first show that Webber put out that got like public exposure was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. So have you seen that one before, Dan?
No.
Okay. I have seen that one. And then followed that up pretty quickly with Jesus Christ Superstar in 1973. I have not seen that one. Is there a movie of that coming soon?
I think there already is a movie of it, and they might be making another one of it. I used to get that one mixed up with Godspell, and I knew Godspell better, and in my head they were the same thing, but they're actually different things. But I saw Jesus Christ Superstar once, and I got a little bit of like, what the hell is going on with that one too? But in a very, it's because it's like the Andrew Lloyd Webber experience, but about the life of Jesus. So it's like, okay, that's weird. I believe Gargus really likes that one, and we're probably gonna have Gargus back on within a couple months, so maybe we can ask Gargus about it then.
Gotcha. And Andrew Lloyd Webber's theater production company was called the Really Useful Group. And we've talked about this before. It's because he was a big Thomas the Tank Engine fan. And this was back before there was a Thomas the Tank Engine TV show. Like, he was a fan of the OG Railway series books and the Isle of Sodor. And so he was involved early on with like, look, I got to get these rights. I got to do a Thomas adaptation. And he did a musical called Starlight Express in the early 80s that I don't know if it's got the official branding of Thomas. I don't think it does, but it's very much inspired by that, and it is train
Hmm.
themed musical. So perhaps we'll have to check that out someday.
Perhaps.
If we ever get Train Month 2.
Oh, a sequel theme month. That would be fun.
Then, yeah, the other thing that I knew about Andrew Lloyd Webber was just that he had left this large cultural imprint and had like bonkers commercial success. He was knighted in 1992, so I knew he was Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber. I learned this week he's actually a level beyond that. In Pocahontas, Ratcliffe sings that the king's going to be so proud of him, he'll knight me, no, lord me. Andrew Lloyd Webber has been lorded. He is a baron,
Wow.
and he's a billionaire, basically.
Yeah. How could he not be?
His net worth is like 800 million pounds, so more than $1 billion.
So here's where I'll say something, which is that all of the pretentious people I'm aware of consider Andrew Lloyd Webber trash, basically. The music that he writes to be flat and shallow and vapid. That's kind of the starting point for whenever you encounter an Andrew Lloyd Webber work. That was something I'd heard, so I was kind of curious, and I can kind of see it because I don't feel that way personally, but I can see why people feel that way because it's like camp without camp almost. It's like it's got the trashiness of camp, but like without the ferocity, the joy of whatever indescribable thing it is that makes it camp. What was it that we had your someone up from your crew on the podcast?
Right. Lindsay came on and we talked that she had studied and like written film school papers on
Mm-hmm.
camp theory.
And one of her takes was that camp must be completely unknowing. So like there has to be an element of like if you're trying to be frothy and over the top, it loses the magic of it. And there's a little bit of that to well, I mean, certainly in Cats, there's a lot of that. And even in Phantom, there's like a certain over the topness that's it's like, all right, tone it down just a little here, buddy. But an interesting thing about like viewing him as creatively bankrupt in some way is that I don't think that his ideas are just really ambitious. Like lots of motivic work. Like, oh, you'll hear a musical thing and then it'll like pop up in like just sometimes really surprising and jarring moments. I mean, the most obvious one, of course, is the Phantom of the Opera, the big organ riff that evokes the Bach. But like there's just like little bits of a song will appear that oh, like this character is thinking about a thing related to that character and we hear that song and like that's a sophisticated idea. And then it goes like one thing further than that, which is that not only is it like motivic from like a melody, but it's almost motivic from a genre perspective. It'll be like this character is rock and roll electric guitar in the background and this character is like singing more of a torch song, like a big over the top big over the top gaudy ballad, maybe like your more stereotypical vanity Broadway type song. And then this one is like a bouncier, sillier thing. And it's like it's not just different tunes and songs, but like it almost feels like this whole panorama of what musicals can be spliced together. Again, it's a bit much. It's not like a focused vision of what a musical could be, but I still find it pretty powerful. I don't know. This is like this week is the most I've thought about it, and there's something provocative there. I can see why it's resonated with people across different demographics, and that on top of all the spectacle. So it's like again, you have this contradiction of this guy who helped spearhead this sort of mass production thing at the same time as he was bringing in like these I wouldn't call it cerebral ideas, but like these ambitious musical ideas that you at the same time that he's kind of mass producing it. So it's like it kind of cuts both ways, you know?
Yeah, well said. Two things about that. One that I've definitely been thinking of all this month is like who writes songs that are catchy, and after you leave, you remember what the tune was. And it's like the Sherman Brothers for sure could do that in Mary Poppins. And then some of these that we've watched this month, and now granted, Phantom has an unfair advantage because I listened to the cassette tape so many damn times when I was 6. But I think Andrew Lloyd Webber has that. Like, I don't always get into the stories of his shows, but it's like I remember the tunes of Joseph and like Don't Cry for Me, Argentina, and Evita. Like, I went and saw Evita. I didn't like it at all, but that tune sticks with you. And I think that about a lot of the tunes in Cats. Like, I think some of those melodies stick with you. And absolutely Phantom. I mean, I think Phantom is like the blockbuster musical. It's at a rarefied level of like a Star Wars or a Mary Poppins in its own niche. It's like you may have never seen a musical where you've actually gone and sat down in the theater, but you're going to recognize the bah, 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 bah. I read that the Phantom of the Opera, it debuted in England, West End, 1986, came to Broadway in 1988, and then it ran on Broadway until 2023. So like 8 shows a week, like every day and 2 on Saturday for, 35 years or something. And in that time, it made like $7 billion.
I mean, that's why he's a billionaire or an 800 million pounder or whatever you might call it.
Yes. And so it said it was like the most income generated by an entertainment event until it was superseded by Disney's The Lion King, which may include like the stage production and possibly the 2 movies, like the original movie and the live action.
I wonder if that's been trumped since I feel like Grand Theft Auto 5 might have met that or something like that. Like some of these huge video games might be in that territory too, because those ones it's like $70 a person. Yeah, I guess the Broadway ones are the same thing, but yeah.
That's a really interesting question. If you see an article on that, send it my way because I'd like to read about that.
Okay.
But yeah, Phantom ran 13,981 performances.
Oh my God.
And like basically nothing else has over 10,000. So Phantom of the Opera, the show, is based on the 1910 novel, as I mentioned. And there are, of course, other adaptations of the story throughout the years. Had you seen any other Phantom of the Opera movies, Dan?
So I actually have not, but I am doing a 1001 movies you must see before you die, like very slowly going through it, by which I mean like 5 a year. And Phantom of the Opera is one that I will hit this year, assuming that I keep that pace up. So, because there was a extremely famous and influential and iconic silent version of it that I'm still a little foggy on exactly the production history, but I think it was made first as a silent movie in 1925, and then they added synchronized sound and re-released it or something along those lines. But you'll see it listed as the 1925 or 1928 cut of Phantom of the Opera with, I think, is it Lon Chaney as the famous ugly Phantom dude?
That's right. Lon Chaney Sr. doing his own monster makeup. This is a great movie. If you haven't seen the 1925 Phantom of the Opera, go see that one. It's one of the silent movies that I've watched the whole thing, which, I mean, obviously there's a few that I've done that with, but even cinephiles, I think there's a learning curve when it comes to silent films. It's like, that's a commitment. Nobody's going to talk. You got to read.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a level of devotion to consume an entire silent feature.
I watch moving pictures so I don't have to read. Come on. But it did make me laugh because Gerard Butler plays the Phantom in the movie. And it's like you imagine the Phantom of the Opera, the iconic 1925 guy, and he looks like someone from a freak show. And then it's handsome Gerard Butler with like 14% of his face covered by this mask.
Who thought to cast Gerard Butler in this movie?
Oh, that ugly, hideous guy. Who could love a monster such as him?
He hadn't even done 300 yet.
Also, he couldn't sing.
Yeah, no music training.
If you read on, I think it's the Wikipedia article, it talks about the casting. So this movie was made by Joel Schumacher, I don't know how you say it.
He of Batman Forever, right?
Yes. Generally regarded as like a trash monger. Interesting, actually, both of the directors are often considered trash mongers here. Hacks. I don't mean to impeach an entire filmography with a throwaway line. I'm sure there's a reason that he continues to make movies. He just made some weird casting decisions. And one was, he's like, I wanted a rock and roll guy to play the Phantom. I didn't care if he could sing. He just had to feel like he was rock and roll. And that is how he landed on Gerard Butler. It's like, okay, why? But okay. The other one is the star, Emmy Rossum. Apparently he like locked on her as soon as he saw her audition, or like, I don't even saw her audition, saw her in something. But she was like 15 or 16 when they were casting this movie. I think she was like 17 when they made it. And she's a like adult romantic heroine. So it's very uncomfortable once you're aware of that fact.
Yeah. So I want to talk briefly about the original Broadway cast of Phantom of the Opera. And it was also the original West End cast. And how Phantom of the Opera was autobiographical for Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, so the original stars of Phantom of the Opera were Michael Crawford as the Phantom. And so like if you listen to original cast albums, you're going to hear Michael Crawford's voice. Great singer. He also is at the start of WALL-E. They used that sound clip from Hello Dolly.
Oh, yeah. I love that bit.
Where he's got kind of a high, wavery voice. Original Christine was Sarah Brightman. And the show was kind of written with her in mind because she was Andrew Lloyd Webber's like protege, ingenue, and then wife. And so they started working together when she was like a small part in Cats in 1981. And he, became inspired by her, took her as his muse, and was like, I'm going to make you a big star and do a whole big, $7 billion entertainment event about how an older man is watching you from the wings and, pushing to elevate your career. And isn't your voice marvelous?
You're underappreciated. You should be the big star. Yeah, okay. All right, buddy.
And just a 12-year age gap between Andrew Lloyd Webber and Sarah Brightman. But potentially more with the Phantom, which is not, I'll say, not entirely clear if you just listen to the cast album. Like, if you just listen to the songs, you don't necessarily know that there's a huge age gap between Phantom and Christine.
I mean, it's also like, it's sort of operating in fairy tale space. It's like, it's not actually a fairy tale. It's a historical novel turned into a big production, but there's an element of at least evoking the supernatural, like kind of like Beauty and the Beast or any of the Disney ones. It's like people always say, oh, did you know Snow White's actually blank years old? And it's like, well, no, she's not, because you made up that number. It's not in the text. And also, like, yeah, you can maybe apply some reasoning how you came up with that number, but like, it's just like a young woman who has recently come of age in this larger than life world. It's not like the real world where we're like in our societal structure here. I mean, I'm not to like say that you shouldn't apply scrutiny to those kinds of relationships, but I also think we need to use our critical thinking, people. about
Right.
like how does it actually matter in this story, you know?
Yeah, I feel the same way. That said, I think it does pretty directly say that Ariel and Jasmine are 16.
Does it?
Ariel for sure. I believe we'll go to the tape. We'll find out before next week, but I think so.
I thought it was uh well, whatever. We can.
We'll see what movies we end up talking about next week. We'll see. I've had Disney Renaissance on the brain.
You're a Renaissance man.
Yes. And so Phantom of the Opera came out on stage in the late 80s, and my understanding is pretty much right away they're like, "Hey, this is successful. Let's make a movie." And they were in talks to make a movie in like 1990, but then Sarah Brightman and Andrew Lloyd Webber got divorced.
Oof.
And so I think, it kind of hit a roadblock at that point. Oh, well, we're probably not going to have the original cast in the movie. And then, it went down the road another decade of development hell. And then finally, they put the pieces together to make this movie with Schumacher and the cast that you were discussing. Rossum and Patrick Wilson as Raoul.
Yeah. Who's had a long career. He's the hero in Watchmen. He's in a bunch of stuff.
Oh man, he's in the Conjuring movies, right? He
Yes,
plays
yep.
the ghost investigator. I did not place him. I feel like I could be wrong. In Watchmen, for sure, he wears glasses. He might wear glasses also in Conjuring. I don't remember.
Did you see that movie? I think it was called Moonfall.
Was that when the moon was going to hit the Earth?
Yes, by I forget who even made it. I think
Was that Michael Bay?
I don't think it was Michael Bay. Is another who's the guy who made Independence Day?
Roland Emmerich?
It might have been him.
Okay.
Anyways, I thought that movie was dumb. It kind of developed a minor like, oh, do you remember when we used to make movies like this type of following? I thought it was really bad, but I think he stars in that. I can't remember.
Okay. Cool. I read that it was filmed entirely on sound stages, like aided and abetted by CGI. Like they didn't actually go to the Paris Opera House and film this, or the moon. No, I'm talking about Phantom now.
Okay.
I understand that you have been to the Paris Opera House. Is that right, Dan?
It is, yes. I have not read the book or seen any movies prior to this, but pretty aware of the story generally. So for my 10th wedding anniversary, I went to Paris. It was actually a few months after my 10th wedding anniversary because for a number of reasons, we just couldn't. It was when our kids were starting kindergarten and we had just moved. So we didn't want to immediately go to Paris. So we went in spring the following year because I got married in September. And then I think it was March or April, we went to Paris and I met Gavin there, who's been on our podcast several times. I met him in person for the first time. And I've subsequently met him again one more time in Indiana because he's from Indiana. So when we went to Indiana, me and my wife and my kids, Gavin also went to Indiana. And so I met up with him there. I'm kind of rambling here. Paris, the Paris Opera House. So one of the things that Katie, my wife, read is that if you go to Paris, something that is like worth both the time and the money is to do a tour of the Paris Opera House because it's really cool. And I completely agree. I thought it was awesome. You get to go like into the seats and like also up into the more fancy boxes, which I never understood, like, or I sort of understand, but it seems silly to me that like the expensive seats at theaters, like the fancy ones, are like high up and like off to the side. It's like, I know I want to be like maybe a little elevated, but like looking dead center onto it. I don't want to be like in a corner because then you're like seeing off stage and weird angles and stuff.
Right. I've always thought that too. I believe it's because then you are being seen as well. It's like if you are the president in the president's box, you're being seen by the crowd because you're elevated and you're on the side. It's like they can look at you.
And there's a lot of really cool stuff. So one thing they do is there's a specific box that's the Phantom's box, and it's actually based off of the real numbering they used and like a real spot in the opera house. So you don't actually get to go in the box. You might actually get to go in that specific box, but they have like a little placard for it for where it is. And yeah, so the book itself was like drawing from the actual like construction of the opera house and Paris opera culture to some extent. Of course, it's like made into a fable and made into a pulpy story rather than like a realistic story. But one thing they also show is, I think, I'm trying to remember specifically, I think it's just like a little window into it, or it might even just be a picture of it, but the watery area underneath that, like in the movie, it's like one of the key images is like, oh, do they call it a catacombs? I'm trying to remember, like something weird.
Right. So the key visual hook of Phantom of the Opera is he's got a basement apartment under the opera house, and you get there by rowing across a lake that for some reason is there under the building. And so you're saying that actually under the building there really is this body of water.
Yes. It's crazy. That is real, except it doesn't work like it does in the movie. The distance between the water and the lower level is such that you could never like row a boat on it, basically. Like it's closer to it. And also it's like just one big wide area with some beams down. So it wouldn't have like the sort of labyrinth feeling that it has here. But it is, again, it's based on a real thing, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. And when they do it on stage, this is awesome.
Yeah, how do they do it?
It's so cool. And my thought is they probably have a very thick layer of fog from a fog machine, and then the boat probably has like roller skate wheels on it. But he's actually able to, punt through the mist across the stage. It looks really good, and there's like a million candles.
Wow.
Great for like promotional images. When the movie opens, it's like early 1900s, and there's this auction going on where they're selling off relics from the opera house, and old Raoul shows up and he's buying things. And then pretty quickly it flashes back. I think it says 1871. So this is a mess. Just the timing of Phantom of the Opera, because some things say, oh, it was 1880s. The title card at the start of the movie, I think, says 1871. It only really matters because of something I'm going to talk about briefly, which is that Andrew Lloyd Webber subsequently made a sequel to this musical.
What? Really?
Yes. And it's abysmal. It's so bad.
Really?
And we'll talk about it once we get to the end of the movie.
Okay.
But late-ish 1800s, second half of the 1800s is when things are going down at the Paris Opera House in the flashback, which is the bulk of the story. And the opera house is under new management. These two like bumbling guys who I guess have made a fortune in business. They say scrap metal. So it's like Industrial Revolution. They're making industrial money, and now they want to dabble their feet in the arts. So they've bought like this turnkey business of the Paris Opera House. And it seems like if you're selling an opera house, you should have to disclose that you have a maniac phantom. But I guess the previous owner didn't do that. He's like, well, here you go. I'm off to Bermuda, And immediately they're getting blackmail letters from the Phantom of the Opera. And I do think it's you mentioned that there's an element of the supernatural, and everybody's like, oh, a ghost. This is just a guy who lives in the walls. Like there really is not actually anything supernatural about this, but I like that everybody just kind of gives him the benefit of the supernatural doubt. It's like because it's kind of cool to have a ghost.
Yeah, it makes a good story.
It's like, even if he's bothersome, it's like, oh, that's kind of evocative and romantic.
If you went to a place and you're like, yeah, we got a ghost here, you'd be like, okay, all right.
I'm in.
I'm in. Yeah. Tell me more.
This guy, this phantom, who nobody has really seen, has a relationship with the impresarios of the theater of like, hey, set aside the box for me, set aside money for me, my living expenses, which that's rather bold.
Here's the trick, Ryan. You got to convince someone that you're the ghost of that property, and they have to accommodate you. That's a requirement of owning this property. And then you got it made in the shade, baby.
Yeah, the top 3 reviews on Letterboxd right now. Number 3 with 5,677 likes is "What Zero Pussy Does to a MF." Number 2 with 7,160 likes is "I Like When It Go." Dun 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 dun. And number 1 with 8,631 likes currently is "Living in a basement and demanding 20,000 francs a month for doing nothing is the kind of life I aspire to have." The opera has like 2 established Italian stars. I was thinking a little of Amadeus, where it's like, who makes culture? Who makes opera? Oh, it's the Italians at this moment in time. And it's like, so there's like a lot of prestige associated with, oh, we have these authentic Italians. I also kind of like how, it's called the Phantom of the Opera, but it's very much like a contemporary musical style. But periodically, you'll get like a snippet of what is the opera company putting on. And it'll be like, 10 measures of opera, sort of. Like some original opera that doesn't really exist. Like they're practicing, this is what they're putting on, and then it'll get interrupted.
And this had me thinking a little bit of 42nd Street, Brian, because that was like the way that you experienced the musical in there. It was like you get a little bit of it because it was their practice, and that's not right, and then you go to the next thing.
Exactly. Or the song that they sing in the audition in High School Musical, where it's just a little snippet of what it's going to be. So the Phantom does not like the prima donna who's the established star of the theater, and he is gunning for Christine, who is this young. It's a little also like 42nd Street, where you got the one who's the established star and then the one who just walked in off the street. Although this was a bit that I didn't really know. Like this didn't come across in the cast album that I listened to all the time. Did they say that Christine has been living there since she was like 7 or something in the movie?
Yeah, I didn't quite get that. I was like, what's happening here? I'm not sure, to be honest.
Because there's this creepy like witch lady who works at the theater. I think she's the mistress of ballet. Like she thumps a cane on the floor and tells ladies to like lift their legs to the bar on the wall or whatever. It's like gives instructions to the ballet dancers. And her name is Madame Geary. She's played in the movie by Miranda Richardson from Merlin.
I didn't recognize her.
But she seems to know more than she's initially letting on about the Phantom and just the opera house in general, because she is like a slightly more public-facing Phantom figure. It's like, she knows all the ins and outs. She knows the behind the scenes. She says something in the movie. It's almost entirely sung through, but there's little bits that are just said, and they're like not really part of any songs. And I think she says that, okay, so Christine was definitely an orphan. Like her father she was close to died. But then she's been living at the opera house, working at the opera house for like a long time. And kind of grew up there, is how it sounded to me.
So, okay.
And my question is, wasn't the Phantom also doing that?
Yeah.
And it's like, when did they meet? It's like, it seems like, is there like 15 years of story that we are just not aware of here? Or
they're roomies,
Yeah.
And they were roommates.
Oh my God, they were roommates. Yeah, it's almost, I just saw the Wuthering Heights movie, the new Wuthering Heights movie, and Kathy and Heathcliff have a thing where like Kathy's dad adopts Heathcliff as a little boy, and then they like grow up together from the time that they're like I don't know, 8. It was like, huh, okay.
Well, that's like the fundamental root of their romance, at least in the versions I've seen. I haven't seen the new one, but like that's this connection that they have enables her to see past the crusty fustiness of the class dynamics into her passion, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But here it's just like I guess it's like so that they have a little bit of a mirror image and so that she's a little bit more sympathetic to this loner ghost guy, but
Right.
it's an odd plot dynamic for
Yeah,
sure.
and my other question is like, why is he just now setting his plan into motion? It's like there's this change in ownership. Maybe he just thinks he's going to be able to sway the new owners more than the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Although it seemed like he had that guy in his pocket too, so I don't really know. But he puts the plan into action of Christine should be the star of the opera house. Should not be this other lady, it should be Christine. And he's gonna literally pull levers to get that to happen. The Wishbone episode is also pretty good, by the way.
Oh, and you do get to see a big chandelier if you go to the Paris Opera House.
And so early on, Christine does sub in for Carlotta, the Italian lady, at a performance and sings the song Think of Me, where Sarah Brightman gets to do a really high note. And when this happens, Raoul shows up. And Raoul is, what do they say? The Vicomte de Chagny. He's like a duke or something. Some French nobility. He's got money and he's got prestige. And I think he is a patron of the opera house. So it's like he's given buckets of money to the opera. And so as a result, he can basically go anywhere and do whatever he wants. So he's a bigwig, a patron. And he also happens to be the childhood sweetheart of Christine. They've met each other and known each other in the past.
This is a little bit Wuthering Heights too. Wuthering Heights kind of has it's different, but it has a thing like that. It's also very Jane Austen. The Persuasion one, basically, it's not exactly childhood, but they were like young lovers who got engaged, but she decided I can't marry a poor guy. And well, she gets convinced of that, but then she regrets it. And then he goes off and he goes to war. And apparently that was how he got rich back in the days. He went to war and he got spoils and he came back. And then he comes back and he's rich and single. And now everybody wants to marry him, but she still has a flame for him. That's the Persuasion. So this is like something that I think is like someone you loved, but you couldn't marry because of circumstance. And then now there is circumstance.
Indeed. But the Phantom intervenes because after one successful performance, well, okay. So the Phantom has been Christine's music teacher, like training her to sing, choir director. And the way that he does this is he talks to her through the mirror in her dressing room because he knows all the secret passageways. He can be in the walls, but also kind of this magic element. And before her father died, Christine's dad told her to expect that the angel of music would come and like guide her way, guide her path. Open to interpretation, but it seems that she may think not just that this angel was like sent by her father, but is her father in some regard.
Interesting. I was not aware of that reading, but that adds an element to it.
After this one performance, the Phantom flips a switch and you don't just hear him through the mirror, you see him. And I don't know, they like scraped away part of the backing or something, Pepper's ghost, some other kind of trick that you can do in a theater. And it's like, oh, he's in there. And he spirits Christine away down to his basement apartment. Another thing that I didn't gather early on from the cast recording, but then when you see it on stage, there's no interruption between the songs. It's like boom, Angel of Music, boom, Phantom of the Opera. Oh, and Think of Me right before Angel of Music. It's just like one into the next, into the next.
Relentless.
Yeah. But he takes her down there, and this is really the like maestro moment of the production design. Is all the stuff that he's set up in his lair, and bunch of candles, bunch of like Baroque architecture, and it's kind of neat.
Yeah, and the reason that the Opera House really did have a thing like this is, if I recall correctly, because it's near the river in Paris, it's like kind of swampy or like not stable, but apparently having like a big tank of water underneath your building makes it a little more stable, because now like the tank is the thing that absorbs the brunt of the shifting swampy dirt. And so you have that underneath the building, and that makes it more stable, but also it's a place that an author can imagine that a Phantom of the Opera would live. And there's actually some pictures of it in its preserved state today if you look online.
Yeah. So I would live here. I don't know. I this is this is like the key image. This is a cool, kind of a cool setup. I mean,
Yeah.
arguably it's not very cool. It's like you're living in the walls, you're living in the floors, but he's got like free access to the whole building. Like he can be on the roof if he wants to be on the roof. He's got the box if he wants to be in the box.
But you got to take a boat to get to your bed, dog. How does he go to the bathroom in the middle of the night?
I mean, realistically, he probably pees in the lake.
Exactly, yeah. So at UVA, where I went to college, the University of Virginia, there's a series of dorms that are like the original dorms that they built at UVA, and they're on the main quarter, like they call it the lawn. Every decent sized college has like a big grassy field that has a name and mythology about it. What's the one? Sunken Gardens? Is that the one at William and Mary?
That's right.
But anyways, so the lawn, there's a whole thing. It takes itself very seriously. Like you get your name engraved on a plaque so you can see every person who's lived there. And many of the most famous UVA people lived on the lawn, and like the odds of being selected to be on the lawn are like, it's extremely selective. It's like more selective than going to Harvard or something like that is to get on the lawn at UVA. But then I've known people who lived on it, and they're like, it kind of sucks. The rooms are small and old and not well regulated from a temperature perspective. And they don't have bathrooms. They have shared bathrooms at the end. And so the guys, they do have a sink though. And so apparently every guy, if he has to pee, he pees in the sink in the room instead of walking out down all the way down. So I don't know. I just thought of that when we were talking about unfortunate living quarters.
That's funny. I've told in the past the story about how I met Teddy in band class with the jaunting car and the no-mobile.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, it's going to have less of an impact because we haven't had this guy on the program, but do you remember John Jascott?
Of course I do.
Okay.
JJ.
So he was great. Another very funny guy, another good friend from marching band. But one time we did a band trip where we were doing a marching band performance in like, I think it was Giant Stadium. I could be getting mixed up, but I'm pretty sure that's where we were. And we went to the bathroom. There was like this thing in the middle of the room that was like a big circular trough. It was like an elevated tray in the middle of the room. I stepped up to pee in it, and John Jascott stepped up to pee in it. And then somebody said, "Guys, that's the sink."
It's not the pee. That's pretty funny. That's not the pee in trough. It's the wash and trough.
That's how I met John Jascott. And that's how we became friends, is we both tried to pee in the weird sink thing.
You bonded over that.
That's right. So I guess the Phantom's plan at this point is like, don't you think my room is so cool down here? You could live here with me. And she is there for a little while. I think in different adaptations, it varies how long she's down there. They say like 2 weeks or something.
What the hell?
I don't know. She's down there for a while, but then she takes his mask off is put off by what she sees and ends up going back topside again. The unmasking here, I gotta say, very underwhelming because they don't actually show anything.
Totally. Yeah, and also it's Gerard Butler. It's like, okay, dude. Wow. This 1/4 of your face has scarring. Ugh. Again, I feel like the idea here could have been hit with a little bit more like depth, but I'm gathering like it's probing the like you can live on the dark side of life, the outcast corner, and embrace this, like reject normal society, be a freak like me, basically. But at the same time, he's also propping her up as the big time star. I wish there was a little bit more there to like unpack. You have to bring your own stuff there for it to really have much power, I think.
Right. It's like you have to kind of live with it and think about it to get much out of it. But yeah, I can see that it kind of scratches at the topic of like, do you want to have like an artsy loser poor boyfriend, or do you want to have a wealthy connected successful boyfriend who's not into the art that you like or something like that? I don't know. It really bothered me, the unmasking here in this movie specifically, because it's like they want to have their cake and eat it too. It's they want to save the reveal until later in the movie when like the Phantom is out in public and everybody sees him at once, and then you see him on camera. But it's like, well, we kind of need to see it here. It's like we kind of need to see it in this moment to get the revulsion. And when this happens in the Lon Chaney movie, it's like all-time great.
Right.
It's like iconic, maybe the most famous silent cinema shot.
Right. You'll if you see a shot, you're like, oh, that's what that is. Yes, that is what that is. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a little bit of back and forth because now she runs back up, and now they're kind of back at the status quo where the Phantom's pulling for her behind the scenes. She's reconnecting with Raoul. There's more shows being put on by the opera. And it kind of builds to this one big performance where, there's back and forth of Carlotta's going to walk if she doesn't get to be the star because she has a career built and a reputation built and it needs to be Carlotta. And then she goes out on stage and the Phantom's like, I told you guys, not her. Christine. It's supposed to be Christine. You're not listening to my demands. And then this is this is when it's supposed to happen that he drops the chandelier and kills people and really interrupts everything, and then act break, and then when everybody comes back there's like a 6-month time jump. But that doesn't happen here. And so they kind of change some of the lyrics in the subsequent scene where it's like, it's a new year and we're restarting. They change the words a bit. Raoul also makes his proposal, essentially.
Yeah, I thought the proposal was like the grand finale of Act 1.
Yeah.
And his vowing to take revenge on everybody. But you're saying it's actually the chandelier falling that ends Act 1?
Well, it's kind of all those things. But yes, the chandelier falls at the act break in the stage show. Here, that doesn't happen. But Raoul does propose. When the Phantom witnesses this happening, the proposal, they're up on the roof of the opera house. This is also a famous scene in the Lon Chaney one, where it's like you see him clinging to a statue up above. He's like, fist shaking and with the crazy makeup. And yeah, Raoul says, come and run away with me and we'll get you out of this weird toxic environment.
Which, fair.
Yes.
I can't remember if we said it already, but Minnie Driver plays Carlotta in this. And we talked about her in, what was it? Good Will Hunting.
There you go. I didn't notice.
She's got kind of a distinct look, so I actually placed her when I was When there's one time when sometimes she has makeup on and sometimes she doesn't, and I was like, oh, it's the one from Good Will Hunting there. So yeah, that was my anecdote. I recognized her. Great anecdote.
Good. And so yeah, there is like a little bit of back and forth, but there's this love triangle now. Raoul, Christine, the Phantom, who's pissed now. And Raoul does some digging. He wants to learn more about the Phantom's deal. Like, what is actually going on here? He ends up talking to the spooky Madame Giry, and she divulges that the Phantom was a sideshow freak, basically. Grew up being exhibited because he had these deformities, but somehow he's also like a master architect, and he can do everything that he needs to do to be a Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, I was trying to figure it out. I was like, what is his deal? I'm in the same camp. Explain to me.
But I guess Madame Giry let him out of his cage and said, hey, you can come and live in the walls here where I work. So she's been kind of aiding and abetting the Phantom all along.
But didn't he also like kill the freak show captor? I was getting a little bit of Elephant Man here too.
Definitely. Yeah, he's got a body count because he killed the freak show guy. There's this like stagehand who jeers at him that gets strung up from the catwalk.
Oh yeah. I was like, I bet this did numbers in the stage show. That they had the body hanging.
Yeah. And so on the stage show, the chandelier falls, presumably squashes some people. When I've seen it, you know, like I said, I was very scared when I was a little kid, but I've been kind of underwhelmed. It's like hearing it just as audio and reading about it, I expect mangled bodies. And it just doesn't happen. It's like, I don't know if you've ever read, there was this like grand opening gala at a hotel in the 80s somewhere in the US, and they built the building wrong, and it's like in the atrium there's like walkways that cross over each other for like the top 5 floors. They cross over the atrium of the hotel.
Okay.
And the way it was supposed to be built was each of the walkways was supposed to be bolted into the overall structure of the building. But instead, each walkway was bolted into the floor above it. And then at the top, all the walkways had one set of bolts into the ceiling.
Okay.
And so then at this gala thing, you know, it was full of people down below, but also like people watching above in the walkways, and all the walkways ripped loose and just crashed down into the dancers below. And like just dozens and dozens of smushed people. So very horrific. That's, you know, the implication here of what happens in Phantom of the Opera. But no, it just kind of like lolls down onto the stage.
Okay. Now is when I'll say like one thing I think both of these movies suffer from, and I want to investigate it more in Cats, is that I think part of the selling point of an Andrew Lloyd Webber stage musical, is that you are going to be seeing things that you do not normally see live, that are difficult to professionally and safely put together, and impressively, like the spectacle of it on stage. Night after night, you're going to get this incredible spectacle. But it's like incredible for a live thing that they're putting on. But like in a movie, you can do whatever you want. You can make spaceships fly through the air and an entire Titanic sink. You can't do that every night in a musical, but you can do that in cinema. So it's like some of the like it's almost like a flawed at its core. It's like trying to take this stage thing and make it into a movie. Like when I say flawed at its core, I mean as an adaptation. Like part of what was its appeal is strictly about it being put on stage. in a way that it's like, okay, that doesn't impress me when it's a movie.
Yeah, I feel that. And anyway, here in the movie, the chandelier doesn't even drop at this point. They
Right.
it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. They just didn't do it. And in the stage show, it drops, curtain falls, and then when it comes back, it's like the theater staff is talking about how they basically had to do a good PR campaign of like, well, it's been 6 months, we've cleaned up our image, we've bought a new chandelier, and we're gonna have a party to like let people know that we're back. We're back in business. And they have the masquerade. So this is a big staging number, and everybody shows up in costume, which means that the Phantom can be there amongst them in a new disguise. So in the lyrics of the song, they mention a bunch of colors. They're like green and brown and red, and but everybody in the movie is wearing black and white. And it's like, well, they're still singing about all the colors, but they're just wearing two colors. They look like the party in American in Paris. That's not really here nor there, but it's a bit of a disconnect when they're singing colors and you're not seeing colors.
Right.
But I want to compare this again to the Lon Chaney movie, where when the Phantom comes out at the masquerade, he's dressed as the Red Death, like in the Edgar Allan Poe story, and he's colored in. So it's a silent black and white movie, and he walks in and he's wearing red. And it's so otherworldly. And
Hmm.
it's like everybody, stops in their tracks because they kind of all realize that, oh, this is the guy. But I mean, he like is breaking the rules of reality because
Right.
he's in color somehow.
Did you ever read the book The Giver, Brian?
You've talked about it before.
Okay.
I have not read it.
And this may be why I talked about it, but there's a moment in it that blew my mind when I was a kid. And my 8-year-old just read it. And I don't think her mind was blown in quite the same way, but she was like, oh, yeah, that was interesting. But at one point, so there's the premise of it is like it's a hyper regulated dystopia. It's like dystopia 101 if you don't really know what dystopia is, because it's aimed at like, fourth graders, fifth graders, sixth graders. I'm not going to claim that it's anything innovative. Honestly, I haven't reread it in years and years. There are some people who like are naturally resistant to the dystopia, and one of the people who is resistant is our main character. And I think it's a she, not a he. Anyways, whoever they are, they get distracted because they're looking at a piece of fruit and it doesn't look right. It's like, why does this piece of fruit look different? And then eventually, like later, someone explains who also knows like the way that society has been suppressed, that what that person saw was color. And you didn't realize that like they hadn't mentioned colors at all in the entire story leading up to that. And that just completely blew my mind when I was a kid. I was like, this main character described this quality, this visual quality, and like it didn't. I was like, what are they talking about? But they were trying to describe color as someone who had never seen color. So I was like, that's what you just said made me think of.
Also, if you go and watch Pleasantville with Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon, in that I think it was from like 2000 or something, but
Hmm.
they get sucked into a 1950s sitcom. And so it's a black and white world that they arrive in, but they kind of bring color with them, and
Hmm.
it's almost like a disease that starts spreading, and then suddenly different objects in the scenes are in color,
Mm.
and it was pretty neat production design.
I'd like to see that. Yeah.
But at the masquerade, what the Phantom has come to announce is that he has written an opera, and that this should be what the opera company does next. I like this. I think this is kind of funny and like the logical thing that the Phantom of the Opera would do. He's got everybody under his thumb already, and he's like, now you're going to do my show.
And do you think they would do it, Brian?
on the one hand, he's supposed to like be legitimately talented, and like I mean, they don't have to pay for the rights other than they're already paying this guy. It's like, why not? It's an in-house production.
But I guess the thing is, like, I don't know. Maybe I was still caught up on, like, he's a ghost. Like, he doesn't, people don't even know he really exists. But, like, he sort of does. He appears. But, like, the logistics of planning and running a whole show, you can't have a ghost be your star. It's like, oh, is this possibly corporeal dude actually going to show up and perform? So, like, to what extent is, maybe I was just too caught up on this idea that he's a phantom. I was like, how are they, why is the phantom the star? He's supposed to be like living in the shadows.
Right. Well, as he initially pitches it, he's not going to be the star. It's going to be the male lead, the Italian male whose name is Piangi. Okay, so it's gonna star Piangi, but it's also, of course, gonna star Christine. But then when the big night rolls around, so one, Raul says, okay, well, we know the Phantom is gonna be here watching the show, so let's arrest him when he's here watching the show. But yeah, you're right. It seems like, well, if he's the director, like, he would have to be around for all of that, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
like,
or like whatever his role is.
How are they doing dance rehearsal? It's like, how are they actually rehearsing this? But it's like they're going to catch the conscience of the king on the theatrical night. They're going to surround all the doors of the theater like M. Night Shyamalan's Trap, and they'll get him. And then the show is going on. Piangi is performing, and he like goes around a piece of scenery, and the Phantom swoops down and kills Piangi, kills the actor guy, strings him up from the catwalk. It's like, that's a little bit of overkill, dude. But then, yes, takes his place on stage. So now it's the Phantom playing the part alongside Christine. So they're going through the motions, doing the play for a while, and then everybody like voips through a trapdoor. And so it's the Phantom and Christine are going down into the basement again, but Raul goes too, shimmies through the trapdoor, and now the Phantom drops the chandelier as just like a diversion, I guess. Which, I mean, it kind of works, but I think it really undermines the impact of the chandelier just because other stuff is going on.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. How, well, particularly because in broad, this is another reason like why it's almost fundamentally flawed to try to adapt this. Like the structure, the 2-act structure of a musical, the big moment of the musical is the end of Act 1. That's defying gravity, you know? That's when the chandelier falls. But in a movie, your climax is your big thing. So that's like 15 minutes before the movie ends. It's like, are you going to have the chandelier fall where it's supposed to in the original, or are you going to capitulate to what a movie is and do it 15 minutes before the movie ends? And apparently that's the answer.
Right. And so I can kind of see how they arrived there, but it just felt very weird. It wasn't what I was expecting. So they're back in the Phantom's room, basically, his cave room, and he manages to like get Raul. He's kind of like chained up in the chapter book that I had as a kid. He traps Raul in a hall of mirrors that he can heat up. It's like he can shine like a death ray into the hall of mirrors and like cook him. And that was a cool visual. I wish that was that's not in any stage production as far as I know, but it's like, oh man, I want to see that. It's like have him in like a mouse maze and he's boiling. But the point is he's got Raul trapped and like in danger. And so he gives Christine the quote unquote choice of, hey, if you marry me, I'll let Raul not die. And it's like, well, that's not much of a choice.
That's coercion.
It's like, I don't know if that's a choice at all, because like, what is the alternative? It's like Raul dies And then what? You marry her anyway, or you let her go? It's like, what is the B option?
Right. Great question.
But what ends up happening is that Christine kisses the Phantom, and like that's world changing enough for him. Like he feels a swell of compassion and says, "All right, you guys can go. You don't have to be down here in my dungeon anymore. You can both leave together."
Damn, if that's all it took. Somebody kissed this guy 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking of Love Actually when Andrew Lincoln character gets a kiss from Keira Knightley. He's like, enough, and he walks away. I was like, I don't know, dude. You got mental health problems.
And so, yeah, that's what happens. They get to escape, and the angry mob that was storming down to catch the Phantom, they don't catch him. He like slinks away. I think his mask is left behind, but he's disappeared into the darkness.
There's some interesting ideas here where it's like kind of putting on the line, like, come live with me, a person who lives truly from the soul and understands art. And, you could live that life with me, even though I'm a little bit ugly and I don't fit into society. And I'm not afraid to take matters into my own hands. Or you can go live with that guy. But as you said, the plot mechanics don't really make sense for it. And there just isn't enough depth there for it to like be the. I never felt like it was evocative to me of like the romantic feelings or like the longing feelings that the play wanted me to feel. But maybe if I had been listening to it since I was 5 years old, I'd feel a little bit differently about it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I mean, I think these are the two perspectives I hear on Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera. It either gets to you at the right time and it really moves you, or you just don't get it. It's like you see it more at face value, which is kind of wonky and like, what? But yeah, it has its fans. PHAN. It has a community of people who are invested in it and follow it and love it. And that's why I was able to run, uninterrupted until like COVID basically put a dent in it.
I would never be comfortable calling myself a fan if it was spelled PHAN, even if I liked the musical.
One other thing I want to say is that before they all go down through the stage at this performance of the Phantom show, the Phantom gets unmasked again, and it's done in such a way that now the whole audience sees, which when it happened, I remembered this actually is like how it happens in the stage show, because it's like now you see his face, and it's kind of this big moment that I still think it should happen earlier when Christine does it. Also, when I went and saw it, our seats were kind of far back, and so it's hard to see. It's just like you can't, and it's just like a corner of his face, and so it does not have the impact that Lon Chaney does. But you do finally get to see a little bit of the makeup on Gerard Butler.
And it felt disproportionate. I felt like when we first met him, the mask was just like, again, like a quarter of his face. But then when we get a zoom in on the makeup, it's like 3/4 of his face. So I didn't quite know.
Also on the poster for the show, it's a half mask. It's like a mask that covers the whole top half of his face. And I think they determined they like made that mask, and then Michael Crawford, like it was like impeding his singing. It's like they made that mask, they put it on all the posters, and then it's like, well, this isn't really working. Let's try something else. And they arrived at the quarter mask. And yeah, but it doesn't match the poster. It's an oddity. But I believe the very final image of the movie is we get the frame story again. And it's like old Raoul drops off some of the stuff that he got at the auction at Christine's grave. And there's like a rose there from the Phantom. So he's still out and about.
Right. So after he vanishes, he never let go of his love for her. It's a little bit like the Titanic thing, but not quite the same. I was like, I can see why this would be a provocative image if the overall story was a little bit more effective for me. And like, it's the frame story is built around an auction for like this wind up toy that is so peripheral to the core story that I was like, this really should be a powerful image, but it's not really. But the rose is a little more effective. I mean, a rose is a very simple, powerful thing, and the Phantom leaving that there, I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. The reason I like the music box, and I agree, it doesn't seem like it would be meaningful for Raoul,
Mm-hmm.
but it plays the masquerade tune, which
Mm.
is the moment that the Phantom got to be amidst people.
Yeah.
It's like he got to be out in the world, like be at the party with everybody. And so then when he lets Raoul and Christine leave and like the mob is coming down and the Phantom has to disappear, the last thing he does is he plays the music box. And I think if it's poignant, it's because it's this idea of like for a moment he was able to picture a life where he could live amidst the people. And it's like that's a memory that he can hang on to now via the music box. Is my interpretation. Okay. But in 2010, Dan, Andrew Lloyd Webber made a sequel to his Phantom of the Opera musical. Remember, this is after he divorced Sarah Brightman. It's called Love Never Dies. Just abysmally bad. Very, very bad. Did not do well. Some people call it Paint Never Dries.
That's clever.
The reason it's bad is because it takes the things that the people who like Phantom of the Opera like and just like turns them on their head in such a way that you wonder if Andrew Lloyd Webber ever understood what was good about it. It's it's like Star Wars prequel level of like, why are you making these choices? It
Yeah.
just seems like a mirror image of what you were going for the first time around. What they say in Love Never Dies is that it's 10 years after the events of Phantom of the Opera, except it's like 1920, which is not what they said. They said it was like 1880, and now 10 years have passed and it's 1920. But okay. The setting is Coney Island in New York.
What?
And the idea is that when the Phantom disappeared, he moved to New York City and he is now a freak show proprietor at Coney Island.
I don't get that.
So he's like he's like the Phantom of the boardwalk. Christine and Raoul and their 10-year-old son come because she has been hired to sing at Coney Island. And so it's like everybody's back in the mix together again 10 years later. And okay, this is the stupidest thing because the Phantom like pulls Christine aside pretty early on and they have a discussion of, hey, do you remember that time that we had sex? And it's like, well, no, I don't remember that. When did that happen? I mean, if that happens, the Phantom story is done. Like, that's the mountaintop. If that's happened, he has nothing left to do. He was so moved by the kiss at the end of the one thing. I don't know. The way they talk about it as like an aside of, oh yeah, that was a thing that happened.
That's wild. I mean, obviously, sexual desire is like an undercurrent to the story, in because it's a Beauty and the Beast type riff. But like, yeah, saying that happened in the story that it didn't happen. That's it didn't happen.
Yeah, it's pretty paradigm breaking. But the reason is that then the rest of the show, there's debate of, is this kid who's 10 years old, is he Raoul's kid or is he the Phantom's kid?
Wow.
And so the one thing that I think is pretty funny and maybe kind of compelling is there's a scene where the Phantom is showing the kid around the freak show. And he's kind of gauging how the kid reacts to the freak show to be like, could this be my son?
Is he a freak at heart like me?
If he really likes the freak show, it'll mean he's like me. And the song is called The Beauty Underneath. And it's the Phantom showing the kid around the freaky freaks and like watching what he does. And, you know, doing little Shakespearean asides of, oh, perhaps this could mean he's my progeny. And I talked about this with one of my other friends, and he made the great observation that what the Phantom is supposing is that if the kid likes music and likes freak shows, he must be the son of the Phantom of the Opera. But guess who else likes music and freak shows? The kid's mom, because she had sex with the Phantom of the Opera.
Great point.
It's like, we know you're Christine's son. This test doesn't prove anything. Also, Raoul is a drunken lout. He's just a bad, a washed up jock. Like, did the Phantom write this? It seems like the Phantom wrote this.
Did the Phantom write this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's his death rattle dream or something like that. Because he's not really a bad guy. He's not like Gaston,
Exactly. Yeah, Raoul is like an upstanding citizen. Just kind of a normal, well-to-do guy who doesn't live in a cave. So, like, Phantom of the Opera, it works. Kind of. It's like you can see why the Phantom is upset, but you can also see why somebody wouldn't pick to live in the basement with the Phantom.
Right.
So it's like, it's a tragedy. It's like, it's evocative, but it doesn't need to be this weird fan fiction. So yes, very strange. Love Never Dies. It didn't get a movie. It didn't run very long, but it got made.
Interesting. I suppose if you want money and you're a lord, you can do anything.
Man, that's the story, I think, of this Paramount merger that's coming. It's like, what this has really shown me is that if you have $100 billion, you can really do anything.
Yeah. People are like, you sure you want to make this, Andrew Lloyd Webber? You sure? Make it. Coney Island.
Oh, the other crazy thing, I'm sorry. I watched like a recording of the stage show of this, and it was baffling. But another thing is, so Madame Giry is back, and Madame Giry has a daughter who's Christine's age, who is there in Phantom of the Opera to basically be Christine's friend. But in Love Never Dies, there's this weird setup where Madame Giry is pissed that Christine has showed up again. Because I guess, remember we saw in Phantom of the Opera that Madame Giry has kind of like adopted the Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
And in Love Never Dies, her plan was kind of like that movie that we watched with John C. Reilly. What was it? Hard Eight, where Madame Giry's plan seems to be, okay, well, I adopted the Phantom and I raised him alongside my daughter with the plan that eventually they would get together. And it's like, and the Phantom is supposed to be with Meg Giry. And it's like, what is even happening here? That's strange. It's just a strange dynamic all around. Everything that's happening is weird.
Any Jellicle cats in Love Never Dies?
No, sadly. But what does have Jellicle cats is cats. So finally, let's let's not beat around the bush any longer. Thank you for letting me take that long tirade about Phantom of the Opera and its various spin-offs. But now let's talk Cats, Dan. What was your first impression when you clicked this movie on?
So I will say I had never seen this movie, but I remember I'm not a Swiftie per se, but I kind of liked Taylor Swift early in her career, and so I
Dan,
identified.
You've been Taylor Swift for Halloween. I think you have to say that you're a Swiftie.
Well, okay, but I'm not like a defender of her as like an icon, you know? Like I liked her early in her career, and then sometime around, let's say COVID, I felt more distance. And like now I don't feel the same connection with Taylor Swift. And I don't know how much of that is I got older, how much of that is like I liked it when it felt more rebellious that a grown man would like Taylor Swift, and then it was like the thing that everybody on the planet did. And I was like, oh, whatever. But the point being, I'm not like fully tapped into the Swiftie culture, but enough that when 2019 this came out, people were posting clips of it and basically saying dot 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 dot, huh? Like, okay, it's like a thinking emoji, but like an extreme version of the thinking emoji, and just the clip of her, like her scene. So I kind of knew sort of what I was going to be getting myself into, but I also didn't know because you can't know. Like the way this movie starts is, so first of all, I put it on and I was going to watch it with I was going to watch it with my wife. I said, we're going to discuss this on the podcast. Do you know anything about cats? And she said, not really. Like, I kind of know people dress up weird and they perform in cat suits. I was like, okay, well, let's just turn it on. And she fell asleep in less than 10 minutes after it turned on. On the one hand, it's like, how could you possibly fall asleep during something this insane? And on the other hand, nothing makes sense, so nothing registers in your brain. So like, no, like nothing was like triggering my engagement because none of it makes sense. So like, yes, I would fall asleep less than 10 minutes into the movie. But yeah, so what happens is the movie opens and you see a cat lady, and then there's other cats, and then they're dancing and saying nonsense words. And I'm like, well, where can I get my bearings? Are we like in media race here? Or is it like I'm supposed to be following what's going on? Or is it just pure like Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll whimsy, and this is what it's going to be the whole time? And the answer is pretty much the latter, basically. But yeah, that was my impression.
Okay. Yes, a couple things. So you said you had not seen any version of this show before, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, wow. That that's really jumping you in.
But how could you prepare for this?
It would be hard. It would be hard for sure. But when this movie starts out, it's a pedestal shot down from the sky. And even before you see anything, you hear this discordant music that's like played on like an out of tune electric piano or something. Just horrible, jangly, put your nerves on edge before you even see anything. The camera swoops down and a human drives up in a car and tosses a kitten in a bag out the window of the car. And what comes out of the bag is a Catwoman, but not any kind of Catwoman that you've ever seen before. Because
I haven't seen any cat women, Brian.
I mean, but think about it. You've seen women in cat costumes, yes?
Yes, I've seen Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yes, and the way that a person wears a cat costume is you would normally you'd paint their nose. You'd paint whiskers on. You'd give them like paws that they wear if you went further than that. But the character designs in this film, they made every choice wrong. Because it's unedited human faces pasted onto smooshy cat bodies, but bipedal cat bodies, but they don't have paws either. So they're human bodies that have cat textures and cat ears, but nothing done to their faces that would suggest this is a cat. And they have human hands and they have bare human feet, except for like 3 out of the 25 who wear shoes.
Okay, Brian. So here's the thing. First of all, you're right about everything you just said. So we're just that's the ground level. Like that's the basis on which we're building the rest of this conversation. The one thing I knew about cats growing up was like I had seen like images in the newspaper and ads of people in makeup and costumes, and those things together evoke a cat. Okay, so like it is, yes, it's like face paint. Okay, and then it's like this kind of furry costume thing that you wear,
Right.
and then you can tell. Maybe I saw it in a commercial or a news clip too. It's like they do a lot of like acrobatic dancing around in this costume.
And here's the thing. I think that works.
Exactly. This goes back to what I said a few minutes ago about the Phantom of the Opera, about how like some of the things that make it interesting are like, hey, this is a stage musical. And we've used the phrase, or at least I've used the phrase, like, the abstraction of the stage, because you're seeing a thing on stage and you're physically far away from it, and like you're not really in a space, like your brain forces imagination that you can like warp the reality a little bit more in your head than in a movie where you can make you see everything and you can make anything you want to make. Okay, like basically what the stage musical wants to be is a CGI movie. It's like this is as close as we can get to like creating a totally theatrical thing. But it's like reverse engineering the wrong way. It's like, okay, the stage musical was meant to look like, wow, they did these elaborate costumes and makeup that make it feel almost like you're in a live movie. And then they went and like did a horrible CGI version of like somebody putting face paint on and wearing a skin tight fur costume. But it still kind of looks like bad CGI, but with like uncanny valley faces on it. This is just ill-conceived from the start. You made the wrong thing. As you said, every choice was the wrong choice, Brian.
Yeah, it's so viscerally upsetting to even just look at a still from this movie and it's gonna put you off. And then think that like everybody in the movie is like a superstar and they've spent probably $100 million to bring this into the world. And it feels like a confidence trick or something, or like a money laundering scheme.
And some of their dancing and stuff is like imitating. Oh, it's like, they'll walk on their hands and their knees. And it's like a cat walking around and they'll like arch their back. And again, on stage, this would be cool. It's like, oh, yes, now that looks kind of like a cat. But like in this, when they're just people, but like with CGI'd fursuits on, and they do that, it's like, this isn't right. You know, it's like, again, you're taking this thing that was designed for the stage, you're rendering it in a movie, and then they're doing a thing that's supposed to mimic a thing, because you can't really have a cat on stage, like a cat person on stage. So when the people on stage do a cat pose, that's kind of cool for you in the audience. But then when you see it on screen, it doesn't look cool. It looks bad and dumb. It's like, why would they animate and act this out in front of a camera for a big, like, animated almost like, or digitally enhanced at least movie? It don't look right.
Yeah. And also the camera seems like it's handheld, which it just makes me feel seasick the whole time, because it's like the faces on the people are kind of swimming on their digital bodies, and then also the camera is like weaving around. It really made me feel nauseous.
Yeah, it's I don't the camera moves a lot, and it's like something about how they got the digital stuff on screen. There was major sections where I didn't know what, if anything, was physically real, because it's also got this digital gloss to it that even the stuff that I think might have been real looks fake. And or maybe it's all CGI. I can't tell. And that is damning to me. It's like, and I think that makes the whole camera movement look even worse, because it's like if something's slightly off, this is kind of what motion sickness is. It's like your brain thinks something should be moving in a way, but then it's not actually moving that way. And like that's what it looks like watching this on screen.
No. And two things about what you said in the presentation. I think they should have stuck with the costumes from the 1998 production of just like have people wear the fur, or maybe make it animated, like actually animated, because
full CGI might have made sense.
Early on, like in the days when Amblimation existed that made like Fievel Goes West and We're Back, a Dinosaur Story, there was talk in like 1993, oh, make an animated Cats movie with Amblimation. And you can maybe see how they would get there. It wouldn't change the fact that this is just a lot of cats introducing themselves, but it might make you less seasick.
Right.
And then, yeah, I would say that Cats, like if you look at the Cats poster, I talked about the Phantom poster, going to talk about the Cats poster now. It's cat eyes, and like the slit pupils, if you look close at them, are the silhouettes of dancers. And it's like, oh, that's got me curious. It's like, wait a minute, I kind of want to go and see this. Because what is this? And then like you see the people wearing the cat jumpsuits, and I kind of feel the same thing. It's like, well, wait a minute, what is this? I kind of want to see this.
What is this?
I think it's almost like the perfect ideal of like what a theater kid would do. It's like you're putting on this outlandish outfit and doing this like interpretive embodiment of what it is to be a cat. It's like, okay, well, this is kind of like the crux of theater. Like this is what theater is. It's like taking you into this like manufactured space to kind of suggest, well, what if we were cats? And it's like, okay, all right, I can see why people would want to see this.
Maybe. I was always like, how could there be a story about cats? How could that be a story that somebody goes to a theater and says, I'm going to see a story about cats? Why would a human make that? I guess you're saying that, like, okay, it triggers the curiosity. Well, how would they render that on stage? And I guess I get that.
Yeah. So I also have in one of my bullet points in the notes, get Dan's thoughts on pets. Cats specifically, but pets in general. I know you got some hang-ups about pets.
So hang-ups is maybe not the word that I would use, but maybe it's the word that you would use. Well, here's an interesting thing. Like, actually, within the past week, I took an allergy test because I have this inner ear condition, and the doctor thought maybe it's related to allergies. It turns out I don't have many allergies. I have 3 allergies. I have a weed called mugroot. I think that's what it's called. Something, maybe mugwort, something like that. And I'm allergic to cockroaches. Why is that something you're testing? I don't know. Apparently in old buildings, there's more cockroach residue, and so it's more in the air, which then you start saying, why is that so? It's because I guess cockroaches live in old buildings. But the buildings that I frequent, mainly my house, are not old enough to be at major risk of that. Okay. And then the last one is I'm allergic to cats, Brian. So I've never had a cat in my life. I've always been a dog guy, and now I have medical proof that that is true, that I don't like cats and I'm a dog person. But my thing with pets is that I absolutely loved my dog when I was a kid. And if I got a dog now, I would absolutely love that dog. But I have a couple of like complicated feelings about it. So one is like, if you get a pet, you're making like a major commitment to take care of that thing for the rest of its life. It's kind of like having a kid. It's like if you have a kid, you're making a commitment to raise that thing. I feel you should feel that seriousness about raising a pet too. I'm not saying animals are the same as people, but like me saying I don't want a pet because I don't want the burden of having to take care of that person. Like I don't feel like somebody who gets more pets necessarily means they love animals more. And in some ways, I almost feel like you're trivializing the seriousness of taking care and raising that animal. And that's why like I get so enraged when I see depictions of like, hey, happy birthday, we got you a dog. It's like, no, you don't gift someone. Like that's not like a, oh joy, I have a dog now, yay. No, it's like that's a commitment to take care of this thing for the next 15 years until it dies. It's like you don't just give someone that. That's like it's a blessing, but it's also a burden. And so that's not just like a pure gift. And that is part of the context in which we've talked about pets before, is me reacting to the way that like pets are depicted in movies as like this purely positive. It's like, oh, I got a new trinket, or kind of joy in your life. Oh, I got a new gizmo that I can play with for a half hour type thing. That's not what I think a pet should be. Part of the reason I feel that way is I feel like you need to respect animals, and if you're going to make a commitment to taking care of one, you should do it. I don't have pets right now. I did have one growing up, but I don't feel as if this is emblematic of me not loving pets. I almost feel the opposite. I feel like other people don't necessarily treat pet ownership with the seriousness that they should when they commit to being a pet owner. The other thing is I feel like people have like weird emotional hangups about, use that word, I'm using it now, about like dogs. And it's like people get more mad if you're mean to a dog than you are if you're mean to a person. And like, I don't know, it's like just Americans specifically, but people in general, I guess like a dog or like a pet is like, they're not a person, so they can't be evil. But like also, so like, oh, they're so pure, we must love them and take care of them. We don't deserve pets. Who rescued who? Did I rescue the dog, or did the dog rescue me? It showed me what love and life was. Like, no, it's a dog. It wants to eat hot dogs 24 hours a day. Like it's not this bastion of purity and goodness. It's an animal. And like there's a lot of nobility about being an animal, but it's not like this essence of goodness that we should weep if in its presence type of thing, that I feel like sometimes that's the way that people talk about pets too. So that's an unspooling of a couple of my complicated feelings about pets, Brian.
Thanks, Dan. I agree that a pet is a responsibility, but I would really like to have a dog again. Maybe someday that will happen. If I'm in a living situation where I can have one, I definitely would. I like dogs, and maybe some of that is that it's like they are loyal just because you give them what they need. And it's like they are affectionate at the face of it because they recognize that it's like a good relationship just in that, oh, you feed me.
You've created like a Stockholm syndrome situation with your dog.
Right, exactly. But I mean, I think it's nice. I like dogs. Like I said, I had one growing up, positive experience. We had a cat too. I'm less of a cat person. My brother has cats now. I think being a man with cats, it has cultural baggage these days. I don't know. That's how I feel.
I don't even know where you're going with that.
I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. Let's talk about Cats, though. Cats the musical. Because what these cats do is they come out and they're singing to introduce themselves.
Over and goddamn over. There can't be any more goddamn cats. Nope. Here's the next one. We're gonna hear a song about this next one.
And each of the cats has like one little gimmick about what they are, and like, oh, this is a thing that some cats exhibit. Like some cats are really fat because they don't do anything, and other cats are really fat because they eat too much. And some male cats are promiscuous, and some cats are mysterious. That's about it. But they managed to stretch that to like 20 cats.
So you might recall, Brian, when we talked about Alice in Wonderland, I was like, I don't really get Alice in Wonderland and I don't really like it. I mean, I kind of liked the one that we saw because I felt like it gave it a little bit of coherency, and also it had the really cool stop motion, the Jan Svankmajer one or whatever it was. But like watching this, I was a little bit like, this is also how I feel about Alice in Wonderland. It's like just unordered nonsense. And like, oh, here's the thing, and we're going to tell you about that thing, and then let's move to another thing. But none of it fits together. That's a little bit what Cats is like, and that, my hot take, is a little bit what Alice in Wonderland is like. But like, part of the reason I was thinking of it is because some of these words are Jabberwocky style words.
Exactly. So this was based on a collection of poems by T.S. Eliot called Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats from 1939.
I'm out on that book. There's from the title.
And my understanding, I haven't sat down and read it, is that it's pretty loyal of an adaptation. Like the book comes across in this stage show. It's like you get Bustopher Jones, you get Jenny Anydots, and it opens with the what is a Jellicle cat, and it ends with the thing at the end where a cat is not a dog or whatever. It's like, oh, okay. Well, this lit a spark in Andrew Lloyd Webber, I guess.
The more we talk about him, I'm not too sure about this Andrew Lloyd Webber fella.
The scale is always strange. I think the cats aren't big enough. They seem too small. They seem like they're like 6 inches high. And then what's really weird is that then they start interacting with mice, but the mice to the cats are the size that a mouse would be to a human. They're like, they're the size of the foot. So it's like, how tiny is this mouse?
Yeah, it's all off. But again, this would make more sense as a stage production. It would be cool if like, oh, this looks like a kitchen, but we made everything really big because cats are smaller than people. But you're right. It doesn't look right rendered on film.
The one moment that I thought was maybe kind of genius, or just like so avant-garde and in your face that I almost swerved positive, was so Rebel Wilson gets one of the early songs.
Oh my God, she's a horror among horrors. It's like going deeper into the Abyssian hell, because it's like depths of the void that you didn't know existed. Because Brian, this is like, we talked about this with the 2020 Grinch, where he's got fur, but then he like adjusts his fur as if it is his pants. So also it's his clothes. But she like, I swear, she takes off her fur like it's clothes, and then she has human clothes underneath her fur, and then fur underneath those clothes. So like, what's even going on here, man? What are we doing? She can take off her fur and then there's clothes underneath that? What are you telling me?
Also, you're like really up in her various crevices where
like, I don't want to be in Rebel Wilson's crevices. Please.
But so she's talking about herself, and she's one where like the characteristic is this cat is fat.
One of them, yeah.
Yeah. And she does a dance where a rocket line of cockroaches comes out of the wall. You mentioned cockroaches. And so the cockroaches are little tiny, like very minuscule, like a cockroach would be, but they're still humans doing the kick line. And then Rebel Wilson starts eating them.
Monstrous.
It was so insane. I did not expect this. It's like, what? Oh my God. He's eating them. And so,
You said that like Troll 2.
I did. It's never far from my mind. The chaos of that, of her devouring the tiny rocket cockroaches. I thought that was pretty wild.
One more thing to say here. Actually, I would never say just one more thing to say because there's always more things to say about Cats 2019. But the next thing I will say is that if you harken back to our George of the Jungle episode, I kind of made a case that I more or less still feel, which is that I don't believe in so bad it's good. Like, if you are entertained, it's good, you know? And a corollary to that thought process is that to be dull is the worst sin that a movie can do. Like, to provoke is to be interesting, and to be interesting is to be good cinema. Maybe that's like too broad of a brush to paint because then now you're like embracing tasteless stuff. But I tend to think things that like position themselves as tasteless are often not interesting. They often are dull. Like, so I don't really feel it's that internally inconsistent. Anyways, the point being, like, as I was watching this and I was just aghast at what I was watching, I did wonder, is this in fact, as you were just saying, circled around to being unintentionally appealing in its Baroque garishness, in its broken vision of what cinema could but should not be? And I don't know. That was a thesis question going into Cats 2019.
Well, I'm curious to see where you landed on that question. And it just goes on and on. It's song after song. Cat comes out and introduces themselves. We learn that the stakes are that the cat who wins this American Idol contest gets to go to heaven, which means they will be reincarnated.
Obviously.
Okay. So wait a minute. That's the answer that we're given, but it instills like 15 questions in my mind. Because, okay, so wait a minute. Are they in hell now? Are they in purgatory? Are they dead at all? Is this Earth? Or what led to them being where they are right now? Like, do cats have 9 lives? That's something I've heard about cats. Are these cats who have used up all of their 9 lives? Or does this happen each time they use a life, that they go to this limbo area? And I don't understand.
It's almost in like surreal territory, like surreality, like dream logic type stuff. But it doesn't even have enough to be that. It's just nonsense is what it is. You're right. There's no answer to those questions, Brian. You raise good questions. Questions that a storyteller would say, I may or may not give you the answers, but I'll give you the framework to determine your own answer, or to determine that the answer doesn't matter because it matters to what the characters think is important. But like, there are no frameworks here, Brian. There are no tools. There is no storytelling happening. There's cats singing made up words. And those cats happen to be famous actors CGI'd onto horrible things.
It's good that you made that terrible thing. Yeah. Actually, the movie, having just watched the recording of the stage show, the movie does make an effort to kind of add in a little more plot, because it has Idris Elba as McCavity going around and kidnapping the performers after they do their songs. And he has teleportation powers, and he's warping them to this prison barge that he has. Because I guess if they're all captured, then only he can win the prize. I don't really get a lot out of that, but they put it in the movie.
Half this movie is characters introducing themselves, and half this movie is a talent show with weird people doing weird things on the periphery. So yeah. And I was also wondering, is there like an implied racial element? Because they kind of make a deal out of the fact that the main character, the one who gets thrown out of a truck at the beginning, is a white cat. But then, like, different cats of different colors seem to have different characteristics or clicks or something. But I also wasn't sure if I was even reading that correctly, if I was just making that up because I don't know. I live in America, so of course I apply a racial lens onto something that I'm watching. I wasn't sure.
I don't know. I don't have the answers. I know that Idris Elba wears human clothes almost the whole movie, and then suddenly he takes the clothes off and he has no pattern. Like a lot of the cats have stripes. There's that one cat who's all white, but Idris Elba just looks naked now.
That was exactly my thought. There's a I think you should leave clip where he plays a game with an egg and the egg undresses and it has a message. You're looking at a nude egg. And I was like, as I was watching this, you're looking at a nude Idris Elba next to Taylor Swift.
Yeah, Taylor Swift is like the herald of Macavity. She's like the Silver Surfer to Galactus. Is
Well,
she comes
yeah,
in? Yeah, Taylor Swift is in this movie.
femme fatale, sort of.
Yeah, the sexy cat.
They're all sexy cats, Brian. What are you talking about?
Are we watching the same movie? Yeah, no. I think Taylor Swift is the one who actually pulls off this weird cat look. Like, if anybody does, it's like, okay, I can maybe kind of see the vision.
I thought the lead was the best because she's got kind of this is some actress I didn't know who she was. I think she's mainly a dancer professionally.
I think her name is Francesca Hayward.
And she has like first of all, I think they spent the most time trying to get her look right. And her face, she's got kind of these like wide expressive eyes. And I was thinking like that actress Ella Purnell, who's in so many things now. She's in the Fallout show. That she would make a good cat too, because she would have these big expressive eyes that like almost have an animal quality to them. And so I thought she was the best. But yeah, Taylor Swift, I mean, they definitely put a lot of work into making her like what would make a cat attractive? That's like they spent a lot of time thinking about that. And they landed on whatever they made Taylor Swift.
Okay. So, well, one, I didn't like Francesca Hayward because she makes one expression the whole movie, which is she's like surprised but tentatively enthusiastic. She's like, "Oh, oh." I don't know. That's the look she always has on her face.
I guess it just felt like more in line with what I would expect a face of a cat creature to be.
I don't expect any of this.
None of this could be expected. It is unexpectable.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's performance after performance in this talent show setup. And are there ones that stuck out to you, Dan? Songs or things that were happening?
Well, the opening number, when I knew we were on the train to Nonsense Town, the these cats just say Jellicle songs for Jellicle cats. It's probably 10 seconds, but it feels like 7 minutes that they're just saying
songs for Jellicle cats
over and over and over.
It's got this like syncopation to it where the rhythm kind of changes. I don't know. No, 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 no.
The Taylor Swift one is interesting because all of a sudden she like starts descending from the rafters and singing in this slinky voice, and then she's like tossing catnip in the air, but it doesn't behave in a physics way, and then people just start. I guess catnip makes you fall asleep. It's like a drug, even though that's not what catnip really is. I don't think it doesn't make cats fall asleep. Like it's the opposite, right? But okay, they're falling asleep. That one was it was at least kind of interesting. Oh, and there's like a magician cat. What the hell's up with the magician cat, Brian? That guy was disturbing looking.
Okay, yes. So another thing that's going on is so the new cat on the block is this white cat who got thrown out the window at the very start of the movie. And so everybody's kind of introducing themselves ostensibly to win this contest and like appeal to old Deuteronomy, who is the boss cat, who in the stage show is a man. Here in the movie, it's Judi Dench, who just looks impossibly old. She looks like 100 years old, and her whole body looks like its wrinkly face.
What have we done to Judi Dench? Dear God.
So, on the one hand, they're trying to appeal to Judi Dench because she's the one who can send him to heaven or whatever is happening here. But also, a lot of the characters seem to be making moves on new girl White Cat, Francesca Hayward. And so there's this one character who is a narrator a lot of the time. The cat's name is Munkus Trap, although I don't know that that ever actually gets said. But he's a gray cat, and you see a lot of him in the movie, but he's just a human face on a cat body with very little patterning. In the 1998 production, the guy who played Munkus Trap just looks like he was born to wear these cat stripes. It's like, this is the guy, apparently the actor's name was Michael Gruber, that it's like, okay, I understand. This is what Cats is and should be. But he doesn't look that way in the 2019 movie. Anyway, Munkus Trap seems to kind of be showing the new cat girl around, and maybe they've got a little bit of a connection. But like from the moment Mr. Mistopheles, the magic cat, shows up, he is simping hard. He's just like making romantic gestures to try to win over the Francesca Hayward cat, but he's just like a simpering, ineffectual, just like a nothing cat. It's like, I don't like this guy. I don't want to see him anymore. But then at the end, like one of the very last musical numbers, so McCavity kidnaps old Deuteronomy. So Idris Elba, villain cat, captures Judi Dench, boss cat. And now they're like, well, what do we do? Because old Deuteronomy is gone. How will we progress? And now it's Mr. Mistopheles' time to shine. And he steps up and he actually does magic. And like everybody believes in Mr. Mistopheles, I guess. And he's able to cast a real magic spell and bring back old Deuteronomy. So that's about the extent of plot that you get in this film. But after he does it, now Francesca's giving him the goo-goo eyes.
I assume that those are, in fact, the names of the characters. Every name, it just sounds more made up than the last. And the names, as you said them, sounded made up too. But I'm pretty sure you got it right.
James Corden plays another one of the fat cats, and he wears a mustache, like a whiskers mustache, that appears to be an actual costume item. And it's like, this looks so much better, relatively speaking, than the digital smush. That's like, they really should have just given him costumes.
Yeah, do that.
Jason Derulo is there as Rum Tum Tugger, the like tomcat on the prowl. It's weird. The whole thing is weird.
Cursed.
And then there's this cat on the periphery who is like the homeless garbage cat. I think there's an element that at one point in her life, she was, the beautiful cat about town, promiscuous lady cat, but she's lived her life and burned out, and so now she's like this outcast, bedraggled, named Grisabella.
Rough name, by the way. Actually, you know what? Out of all of the names that have been out there, that's the one that at least sounds like there's a universe where a human has that name.
When Grisabella, though, finally gets to sing, she sings the one that is not from the T.S. Eliot book. The one that is more stands on its own as a show tune. And it's Memory. So if you've heard a song from Cats, you've heard this one.
Right. So that actually raises something interesting, which is that I kind of mentioned this earlier on, but I really noticed it in Cats, is that, especially because half the movie, like we've said over and over, is just meeting new cats. But like every cat gets a distinct style and like texture of music, almost like a genre of music that's like dedicated to them. So it's like a really panoramic show. Just like all you're just getting all sorts of stuff. You might not be wanting to get that stuff, but you're getting that stuff.
That's right. No, I think it is like a review. It's a variety show. And the way that it shakes out is that memory is what brings the house down. Memory is like the really virtuosic one. And so Grisabella wins the extra life. Gets to go to cat space heaven. I have a weird anecdote about memory from Cats, Dan.
Okay.
So, like on the last day of 6th grade, there was a talent show at my elementary school, and this girl came out in like a skin tight leopard print bodysuit and did a rendition of Memory from Cats, where she like sang it and did an improvised dance number. And the end line of Memory is she sings, "Touch me and you'll understand what happiness is. See, a new day has begun." And then there are like these earth-shattering church bells. When I saw this as like a 11-year-old, I felt a switch flip in my brain that's like, oh, something's happening here.
Your sexual awakening was
My
to
sexual
memory.
awakening was Cats by Andrew Lloyd Webber.
All right, podcast over. The goods is done.
Suddenly, this is something that I care about.
Was Sir Ian McKellen in this movie doing the same thing for you, Brian?
Not quite.
James Corden, the fat cat. That's another one.
But so, yeah, that's what's burned into my brain from Cats.
There you go.
There you go.
Listeners.
Podcast over. From that day to this, that story has never been told.
A life-changing moment for Brian. Memory. There you go. Apt title, Memory. In the Judd Apatow movie, Funny People, which I think is a bold and mostly brilliant but overlong film, that is kind of like the peak of what the Judd Apatow style is, both in its dramatic potential. It may not be his funniest, but it's got a lot of really funny stuff in it. There's this whole thing with Adam Sandler, who's like the sad sack, trying to reconnect with the woman he loved when he was younger. And like, it's finally getting traction. There's a moment when she's married to someone else and has kids. And it's Leslie Mann, who is, of course, Judd Apatow's real wife. Maybe not, of course, but she's in all his movies and plays a mom in all his movies. She puts on a tape of her kids singing Memory. And just like add into the context of it all, it really is one of Judd Apatow's kids singing Memory. And Adam Sandler doesn't react to it. He's like on his phone and like not paying attention. And that's the moment that like both she and the audience realize that like the Adam Sandler character, who's kind of gone through this arc, is still like, he didn't have a magic recovery where all of a sudden he's like this perfect sympathetic human. Like he's still shallow and selfish. And that has always stuck with me as like a very powerful moment in a movie, especially because it was like really a kid singing Memory, and his character is just like not reacting to this beautiful, touching performance of a kid singing Memory. So that's my memory anecdote. Not quite as foundational for me as it is for you, though, Brian.
No, that's good. So we did it. We had our Andrew Lloyd Webisode of
Webbisode.
Phantom of the Opera and Cats.
Do you remember in the 2010s? Actually, I say 2010s. Like it was really like the year 2010 and maybe one or two after, where sitcoms would release webisodes of like little 4-minute things of like one of their lesser famous actors doing like a sketch. It was like certain shows would have webisodes that you could go to parksandrecreation.com and watch our webisode.
those kind of bother me because if you don't watch them, can you really say that you watched the whole show?
Topic for another day when we haven't already fried our own brains with
That's right. When we haven't been talking
Andrew
for
Lloyd
two and a
Webber.
half hours, that's all right. You got to save things for next time. Something that got left out of the Cats stage show and is not in the movie is in the stage show they have a song about dogs, which that blew my mind when that came up in the pro shot. It's like, what? Dogs? That's just too much. It's
There's
like,
a whole new universe out there.
I'm not ready to deal with, and they're called pollicle dogs. Pollicle dogs that fight the Jellicle cats. I can understand why they streamlined that a bit, but also they gave Taylor Swift like an original song that she wrote.
Oh, she wrote that song.
She doesn't sing it, the white cat, or does the white cat sing it? I think she does sing it. It's called Beautiful Ghosts,
Okay.
which was like an original collaboration between Taylor Swift and Andrew Lloyd Webber for Cats 2019. So that replaced the dog song.
The pollicle pause or whatever. One of the top reviews of the Cats on the Cats movie on Letterboxd is God is dead. Just those 3 words. No rating. Just God is dead. And when you said pollicle pets or whatever it was, that was my head where my head went.
It's just so upsetting. It's if you witness this, it's like nothing we say is going to give you the experience that you have if you just go and watch this movie.
So the things just for a moment, in defense of Cats, some of the things that I would say about movies that I stick up for, like the zombies movies, for example, are things that you might also say about Cats. For example, it's kind of stupid, but they're singing and dancing, and you get to watch these people who look kind of ridiculous singing and dancing. And hey, they don't make too many musicals, so it's fun that they're making one here. But like, also no, because it's like it looks even worse. Like they're trying harder, but it looks worse. And the story, to the extent that you can call it a story, nuh-uh. So I don't know. Like even my impulses to defend it, I try to stick up for movies that like try big, expressive, artificial looking styles. I think that's okay that movies do that. But like, you're right. It can do that, but it shouldn't be upsetting when it does that. And this is upsetting. Yeah, I think that's the word you used.
It's like a musical, you should want to listen to it. And it's like most of this I don't want to listen to, and I definitely don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
This was directed by Tom Hooper. I don't know if we said that.
Oh yeah.
He also had previously made the big Les Miserables movie. Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen any Les Mis.
That's also got like an all-star cast.
Yeah.
Mixed reviews for that one. I thought it was well done for what it was. I mean, it's a movie of Les Miserables.
Didn't he also do King's Speech?
Oh, okay. Well, I like King's Speech. It beat out Social Network at the Oscars, so that's a contentious one, but I think it's good enough.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I really love Social Network, so it does indeed hold a villainous spot in my head, even though I can't hold anything against it if I haven't seen it, you know?
Right. But we've talked your ears off long enough. Now is the moment of truth.
So Is It Good is our signature section where we each give the movies a rating on our 8-point goodness scale, ranging from very not good, which is a 1 out of 8, to our masterpiece rating, toward a good, which is an 8 out of 8. So I will go first for Phantom of the Opera 2004. I came in very confident I was going to give this one a 5, a good. And I feel less sure of that after we talked through it and we kind of got to think about the stupidities of it. But honestly, just thinking about the feeling of like, I'm pretty sure they recorded real pipe organs, or else they found a way to really make it feel like pipe organs. Like when that kicks in, it's got power. And there's like fun spectacle to this and like emotional romantic sweep to it. I didn't hate the cast. I felt a little confused by the Phantom himself. Like, is he dangerous? Is he sexy? Is he monstrous? Is he all these things? And I feel like the movie didn't do a good job of conveying that one way or the other. And yeah, Gerard Butler can't really sing, so whatever. I guess I'm gonna go with a soft 5 good. Because I largely positive experience watching it. Like, I kind of accepted it for what it was. And I think I also get defensive of people who are just like, it's an Andrew Lloyd Webber. It's stupid. And there are people in my circle who are like that. It's like, it's going to get 1.5 stars from these people no matter what. But I don't know. It's like, let there be musicals that, not every musical is going to be a piece of art. It's like, I don't want to be the guy who's like, I don't like food. I love it. And if I don't love it, I don't swallow. I just want to be someone who eats food and enjoys it and accept that, but not food, but musicals. So that's why I'm giving it a 5 instead of a 4, Brian. And by the way, the first time I saw Wicked, I used the exact same reasoning. And then I've like gone lower and lower on it. Now I've seen it 3 times and I almost gave it a 3 the most recent time I watched it, but I still landed on 4. So maybe if I see this again, I will have the same exact experience where I downgrade this from a soft passing grade to a failing grade. But that's where I am right now. I'm at a 5 on this, Brian. What about you?
I actually watched Wicked 2 yesterday for the second time. I liked it more the second time, but I really didn't like it the first time. So I marginally didn't like it this time. It shouldn't have been 2 movies. They should have made one long movie and had that be that, and it would have been better. But
as David Ehrlich, Ehrlich, I don't know how you say his name, the critic for IndieWire, wrote in his review, he was his opening line, or maybe it was just a one-liner on Letterboxd. He said, "It is objectively hilarious that Wicked, the first one, opens with Galinda saying, 'Let me tell you the whole story,' when this is a prequel to another movie and part 1 of 2." So I did think that was kind of funny. It did not need to be 2 movies.
yeah. Phantom of the Opera, I am pretty similar to where you're at, where I'm on the fence a little bit between 4 and 5, because everything that I like about it comes from my goodwill to the stage show, which I might give a 7 to the stage show. I think I'm going to land at a 5 for the movie. I don't know. There were points where I felt like it dragged, and I'm not in love with the cast. There were a couple weird beats of like, you need more colors in Masquerade. But I really like the music. I really like the vibe. Gaston Leroux hit on something good when he came up with, hey, this opera house, wouldn't it be crazy if somebody lived down here in the cave lake and like knew all the ins and outs and, was also a showman and so could throw his voice and like run the fly rail to pull things up and in and out. So yeah, I think it's cool to think about a theater has a ghost. I think that too plays to like theater folks' imagination of like, well, we just come in, and imagine and pretend for a while, but what if there was somebody who was here all the time and like this really lived and breathed the theater? So I'm going to land at a 5, like Dan did. All my rambling to get to the same point, but I like that this movie was made, even if I think it's a downgrade from the stage show.
And then I guess that takes us to Cats, Brian. And so now I will answer, is it good? And you probably gathered from my tone that I'm not getting to the George of the Jungle 2 point. It wasn't like laughing, like this is hysterically stupid. It was more like bafflement. And like the fact that, again, my wife fell asleep after 10 minutes shows me that there is an absence of, I don't know what the word is, soul, absence of quality, absence of merit to this. That feels symbolic to me. Maybe she was just tired. I don't know. On the other hand, it's not boring. Well, it kind of is, because nothing happens. But also it's not, because not it's also not boring because like you never know what monstrosity, what new idiocy is going to appear on screen. It's always a surprise. And so I stepped away from numbers and I looked at words, Brian. Numbers can't save me now, but maybe words can. And on my website, I when I write reviews, I use slightly different words for the ratings. I for a 3, I say not very good, but on the podcast, we say not good for a 3. And that's what I'm going to give it. Out of all of the words that were there, you could have made a case for not good. You could have made a case for very not good. I got enough perverse fascination out of it that like good-ish. That's our 4 out of 8. You could have maybe made the case for, but not good felt the most right to me because it's broken, it's ridiculous, and it's ugly. But it's not just not good, Brian. It's not just not good. Throw a just in there. It's something more. It's something more offensive, but also more fascinating. And like, this could be the most fascinating movie of the most memorable movie, let's say, of 2019. I like if you came to me and said the most memorable movie that I saw in 2019, the one that I think about the most, the one that just shook me in ways that no other movie did was Cats 2019, I would believe you. And so for that reason, I think it's got to be not good. A 3 out of 8 for me, Brian.
Well stated, well reasoned. As we've done many theme months on the podcast, we've noticed perhaps some commonalities but from month to month. So one thing is that Dan will often do like a history lesson episode where it's like, if this were a comprehensive retrospective of whatever the topic happens to be, what would be like the must hits, the canonical classics of what is a train movie or a vintage animated feature that's not from Disney or something. But my go-to during a theme month is, how can I pull in an infamously bad film? Like, can we watch Thomas and the Magic Railroad? Or can we watch The Room? And so here we go. We got musicals month, had to hit Cats 2019, and I like when I can throw out a 1. And that's what I'm going to do, is very not good. This is an assault on the senses. It is memorable, though. Nobody is going to forget Cats 2019. So it's not a nothing burger. It's innovative. It's unforgettable. It's grating, and just it's gross to look at. I can't oversell how upsetting it is to look and listen to this creation. But I mean, it was ballsy to do it. They followed through. They spent all the money, and frickin' Gandalf is in here. Like, who else? I mean, the list goes on and on.
You wouldn't believe the people who are in here.
Yeah. Idris Elba, as we said, Jennifer Hudson. It just goes on and on. But it is a 1 from me.
Very not good. Well, I guess we did it, Brian.
A long one. Musicals are long. We're doing 2 movies at a go. But I had to get a lot off my chest there, so here we are.
It sounds like a complex relationship with both of these movies in like your view of the world. And
that's right.
And of women, maybe?
Correct.
All right. Well, then I guess that takes us to our grand finale week. And I had a lot of other... I brainstormed dozens of different pairings, and then they got taken off the board, because we're bound to cover each decade once this month. So all that's left are the 80s and the 90s. One thing that we've talked about in the past at a meta level is that it's fun every now and again to talk about movies that we are kind of coming in blind, and like, how do we react to this thing? What does Dan think when he looks at Cats for the first time? And now we know what Dan thinks. but it's not built up from like a deep well of like me having thoughts about this movie. Now, in this case, you did have thoughts about these things, but I didn't. And I would like to talk about things that I do have thoughts about. We started the month talking about the core developments of movie musicals when they first emerged and like how they became movies. What are the ways that people thought about taking a stage musical and turning it into a movie for the first time? But now we're going to end with thinking about, I think, Brian, at least for me, and I would say, I would bet, at least to some extent for you, what was our in to movie musicals and why we loved them and why we were drawn to them? Maybe not the reason, but certainly a reason. And that is the Disney Renaissance. And I had a lot of different combinations. If you do the 80s, you're a little more limited, but the 90s, you can do everything under the sun. And what I want to do is I want to discuss The Little Mermaid for the 80s. And let's do Tarzan for the 90s. And so we'll go kind of the beginning and the end of the golden age of the Disney Renaissance. Two very different approaches to the music in them. What stayed the same across those 10 years? What changed across those 10 years? So that's what we'll do. And we'll toss in our thoughts about some of the other ones in there. It's a little redundant from stuff we've covered both this month because we talked about Disney, but I would say this is an entirely different thing from Mary Poppins. And then also we've talked about Disney in the past, and we've talked about some of the creative personnel in the past, but this will just be like our Disney Renaissance episode. And then we've covered it, Brian. We've talked about it. So that's what we're going to do.
Cool. I'm excited. I backed you into this corner, but I thought it might be a good thing for you to do. So I'm glad that our brains went to the same place with what was left on the board.
All right.
Well, thanks everybody for joining in. Tune in next time.